Good afternoon. Hello, I am Sophie. I am a maths tutor and founder of Tutor in a Box. And today I'm going to be talking to you about angles, okay? So whether you've received your box in the post or it's on the way, you're in for a treat. There's lots of fluffy pipe cleaners. They might be glittery, they might be sparkly. And we're going to have a go at bending them and doing lots of different things with angles, okay? So there's three types of angles you need to know about, okay? And these are the three types of angles that will come up in your maths GCSE exam, okay? And these are the angles that I want you to have a play with making. You've got a Z angle, you've got an F angle, and you've got a C angle, okay? So our Z angles are our alternate angles, okay? So if I share my screen with you, I can have a go at drawing them. So my Z angles are called Z angles, and because quite literally they look like a Z. And it's this angle here and this angle here, okay? So that's the really important thing to know. These are our Z angles, okay? We've then got our F angles. And generally our F is on a bit of a slope, but you get the idea. And our angles are here and here, okay? So we've got our Z angles and our F angles, okay? Now in any of our Z angles and our F angles are the same, okay? That's the important thing to remember. Finally, we then have our U angles or our C angles. And this looks a bit like this. And it just says these two bottom angles add up to 180 degrees, okay? So this one and this one add to 180 degrees, okay? So we've got my Z angles, we've got my F angles, and we've got my U angles, okay? And these are three really, really important angles. So our Z angles are called our alternate angles, okay? And this means that if we know this angle, we also know this angle because our Z angles are the same. So for example, if this is 180 degrees, actually I should probably change that colour, you probably can't read it. There you go, if that angle is 180 degrees, now it couldn't be 180 degrees, but this is an example, it would also mean that one would be 180 degrees. Now that's obviously a poor example, because you should notice that those are acute angles, so they're less than 90. So it's more likely that they would be, I don't know, 60 degrees. Okay, so that angle is going to be 60 degrees. And this angle here, if we draw another one, is also going to be 60 degrees as well. Okay, hopefully you've all got that so far. Happy days if you have. If not, don't worry. Looking at F angles, this is the exact same principles. Our F angles are our corresponding angles, and this means they are also the same. So for example, if I know that this is 75 degrees, I know that this angle is also 75 degrees, okay? So my F angles, which are my corresponding angles, are always the same. Okay, finally, looking at my C or my U angle, which is the one at the bottom, these two have to add together to make 180, okay? So if I know, okay, let's make it nice and easy. If the one on the left, for example, is 80 degrees, so it's just less than a right angle, I know this one on the right has to equal 100 degrees, so just bigger than a right angle, because together those angles need to make 180 degrees, okay? So we've got our Z angles, which are our alternate, if I can write this down on the screen. So we've got our alternate angles, which are our Z angles. We've got our corresponding angles, which are our F angles. And remember, those are both the same. And then we've got our allied angles, or sometimes you hear them being called co-interior angles. And that means they add to 180 degrees. 180 degrees. So those are the three main types of angles you need to know about, okay? Alternate angles, corresponding angles, and allied angles, okay? Hopefully you've got that. Now, the next thing I want to show you is looking at angles on a straight line. So, here's my lovely straight line on the board. Hopefully you can see this. Now, if I break up this line at any point, for example, here, and I tell you that this angle is 70 degrees, and I ask you to work out this angle the other side, which we're going to call X, you might be wondering, how would I do that? Well, angles in a straight line must equal 180, okay? So they've got to add up to 180 degrees. Therefore, I know that X plus 70 needs to equal 180 because it's a straight line. Therefore, X is going to equal 110. And that is how I get this value here. So my X would be 110, okay? So far we've covered alternate angles, corresponding angles, and co-interior or allied angles. And now we've just looked at straight lines, and angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. All right, let's look at one final thing. Okay, so hopefully you can see here, I've drawn a circle, and I'm just going to draw a couple of lines on it. So, angles around a point always add up to 360 degrees, okay? So if we've got my point here, so my point's in the center, all these angles are going to add up to 360 degrees, okay? Now here we can see that's quite straightforward. We've got a right angle here, which is 90 degrees, a right angle here, which is another 90 degrees, a third right angle, and a fourth right angle. Now, if we do 90 plus 90 plus 90 plus 90, we get 360 degrees. So we know. But what it also says, if I break up any point, and I can break up that circle anywhere, if I know that all of this bit, I'll try and shade it in for you guys, is, for example, 300, then that final bit, so this final bit here, has got to be 60, because in total, all of that has to be 360 degrees. So if I know the rest of it's 300, the remaining bit's got to be 60, okay? So far we've covered alternate angles, corresponding angles, co-interior or allied angles, angles in a straight line, and angles around a point. Hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Any questions, as always, do get back to me. Otherwise, do join me on the next part when we start looking at angles in a polygon. Bye.